Well, welcome from Rackspace's corporate headquarters in San Antonio, Texas. The Castle is what we call it. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology. And folks, we are here for another Cloud Talk Live. Does it look a little different? It should look a little bit different. We're doing the Cybersecurity Summit here today, and I've got four amazing guests here today, and we are going to have an incredible conversation. Now, the rules still apply, though, because I got my little iPad over there, so I can see your comments. But I can only respond if you tell me who you are, tell me where you are, because while we do have a live in-studio guest audience here, we, of course, have you online, across on LinkedIn, across YouTube. So go ahead and introduce yourself and get ready for really the first of its kind that we've done here on Cloud Talk Live, where we're here inside of the production studio in the event center with a live audience, with a live series of guests. Nobody's remote today. We're all right here. But if you will introduce yourself, and if you have any questions along the way, hey, Anger gets the first response there, so cheers to you. But if you have any questions also for the guests, I want to encourage you to ask them in the comments below, to the side, above. I don't know where you're looking at this thing, but we can only respond if you go ahead and make that comment. We've got Darren Cam here from well, he's a Racker. Awesome. We've got Antonio is here as well. Well, while you guys introduce yourself, this is, of course, we're coming to the end of Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in the U.S. and hopefully all around the world. And we've been honoring that this month with nothing but cyber in our Cloud Talk Lives. But let's watch this little video from the Cybersecurity Awareness folks, and we will dig in to this edition of Cloud Talk Live. Let's play. Can you see yourself in cyber? I will hope you can. That's really been the theme of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Well, here all around the world. Look at all these people saying hello. We got New York here. We got a Castle Racker. Get on down here if you're not already down here. Bangalore is here. New Braunfels is here, just east of Bangalore. Netherlands is here. Dubai is here. A CTO out of Dubai. That is fantastic. I could just sit here and read people all day long. Germany is here as well. But you know who else is here is this incredible set of guests that I have today. And let's introduce them, shall we? And we're going to start with Karen O'Reilly Smith. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Always enjoy these.
Hey, what's your role? What do you do for us at Rackspace?
I'm the Chief Security Officer here at Rackspace for the last 3.5 years.
So that's an easy job.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And our great partner, Cloudflare, sent Kenny Johnson over to hang out with us. Kenny, introduce yourself.
Yeah, how you doing? Good to meet everybody. Thanks for having me. My name's Kenny Johnson. I'm a product manager at Cloudflare. My specific product is our Zero Trust Network Access solution, and really excited to talk about all our product sets.
Zero Trust, that's sort of a thing now, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of a little buzzwordy, a little overloaded term, but
maybe you can unpack that for us a little bit later.
Definitely.
All right, Gary Alterson in the house.
Hey there, everybody. Gary Alterson. Jeff, great to be here. I lead the security business here at Rackspace. So I build and manage the solutions for our customers' security requirements.
That's awesome. And then last but not least, we got Janet Heins, who has joined us from a little media company the world may know.
Yeah, hi, Janet Heins. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at iHeartMedia. I've been there for about 2.5 years. Glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here from South Texas, from South Florida to South Texas. So glad that you've joined us today. Now let's talk about the format for our Cybersecurity Summit today. Now we've got 4 incredible folks, and they have, you may find this strange to believe, opinions on cybersecurity and on what's going on in the world. And so what we're going to do here today is give each of them a chance to share what's on their mind. Now, I encourage them to come unscripted. I gave them a few nuggets. I said, what's interesting to you in cyber? And so they've come to share on that. And once they're done, we've got lots of questions for them. I think our studio audience may have some questions. I hope you guys online may have some questions as well. Now, there's a lot of you. There's a lot that's feeding through here. So I know Daniel is helping to make sure that just the right things come up on the screen, but we'll make sure we get to as many of those of your questions as we can. But I can't get to them if you don't ask them. So at any rate, Karen, you CISO here at Rackspace. We've got just a few customers out in the world. I think our published number is about 120,000, and that's on a lot of different continents all around the world. And so when you think about it, well, the other interesting number is 7,000, and that's how many rackers are running around with devices we willy-nilly connect to the internet. So I guess that lends maybe a bit to why you don't sleep as much anymore.
That's true. And our job is, CISOs, whether you're a CISO or a CISO, I mean, our job is to protect the people, assets, and data of a company. That's what we're responsible for, and that's what we do 24/7.
Yeah.
So it does definitely keep you hopping.
Right. Well, as you look at the landscape out in the world of cyber and business and technology, what's on your mind? What do you see? Why don't you share with the world?
We're seeing a lot more sophistication in even the phishing attacks that we're doing. The bad guys are definitely stepping one step ahead of us. I always say it's like playing chess with somebody. You're playing chess with a bad guy that you can't see. And I think they're getting more sophisticated. They know the attacks now. We're, being proactive. They're going on the defensive and vice versa. So we're seeing a lot more of those now. Even the phishing that we're doing out within Rackspace, we're getting better at it. I mean, I know, Jeff, a couple months ago, we even caught you.
You caught me, yes. And I admit it. It was good. It was good. You're clever.
And they have to be better because the adversaries are getting better. So we're seeing a lot of that. Of course, ransomware we saw really ramped up during the pandemic, and we're still seeing that. We get a lot of customers that may call us and say, look, I need some advice. How do I protect myself? What do I do if I do get a ransomware? Help me out through this. Give me the best practices. And so we're always telling them about good cyber hygiene. I mean, that really is where it's all at. Practice the hygiene. That really would be a lot proactive.
Well, that goes a lot to the whole theme of this year's National Cybersecurity Awareness, and that is see yourself in cyber. It's not necessarily saying, hey, you want a job in cyber?
Exactly. It's not. It's actually saying, like, you have the responsibility also of protecting not only your assets and your data, but the companies. So we're telling team members, reach out, ask us, whether you're looking to see how to protect your assets, the data that you have on your PC or even in your home. I mean, we can offer a lot of advice, which we do to internal, employees and also customers about how they can protect their devices and what they do.
Yeah. So, what are some of the trends? You mentioned, let's go down ransomware. I mean, that's been such an issue. And we did an episode earlier in the month as we thought about National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Wonder how many times I say that today. Maybe it's a drinking game. Have a sip of coffee wherever you are in the world. Is that there's no little league in cyber. I mean, it's all on all the time. So let's talk about strategies maybe that you employ. I mean, there's a lot that we've talked about in the past on the program, but how you mentioned some internal phishing. I'm a testimony to that. I can be caught, and but how do you go about that?
Well, the other thing we do is we practice a lot we take the real life events that occur within the industry and within the environment. And we actually bring those into Rackspace, whether we're impacted or not impacted. If it's an incident that happens and we're not impacted, we go in and we take that event and we tweak it a little bit and say, okay, if this occurred, what would we do? So we'll do red team exercises. We'll do tabletop exercises. So that's one way for us to practice on real life events. I always say, don't let a good crisis go, to waste. So we'll use those and learn from them. Any event that we do have, we actually do lessons learned. It's a very important part of the exercise after you're done containing it. The next thing is, what did you learn from it? Where did you learn the gaps were? What did you learn that you could do better? So we actually bring a lot of that in-house. And then we also train. I mean, yes, we have October month and we'll go in, but we're doing exercises throughout the year with our team members, our customers, and we're sharing the wealth of knowledge that we have. So we'll spend the time on the phone with customers and talk about cybersecurity. Anytime they want to talk, we're available.
Yeah. So when somebody is wanting to maybe see themselves in cyber, and that means they want a career in cyber. In fact, I just saw that we had somebody come up. Who is it? It's Katigo, who is a cybersecurity student in New York. So what kind of characteristics do you look for when somebody is interested in exploring it? Because we have a lot of rackers who come knock on your door going, this looks like fun. Oh yeah, and it is fun. I always tell people it's a career, get in on it. It's a sexy job. I always tell them that, first of all, you got to like a challenge. You got to like a challenge and don't shy away. And expect to be on 24/7. Expect 365 days.
You know, it is a full-time job. But if you don't like the normal 8 to 5 routine, this is the role for you. Because it changes. I've been in the industry now for 25 plus years, and I've got to tell you, this isn't the same job I signed up for 25 years ago. So if you really want something that moves very quick, you got to think on your feet. I'm looking for some people that will challenge the status quo. I want someone who's passionate about what they do for a living. I want somebody that'll question.
Right.
You know, they'll question the norms and say, hey, what about doing this? I'm looking for those blue sky.
Right. You also told me one time that you look for people who are curious.
Absolutely. You have to be able to unravel things.
Yeah.
If you like to solve a mystery, you know, if you like a mystery novel, it's definitely someplace to be.
Now they have to have some tech skills, correct? I mean, you're sitting in front of a computer chasing people who are using a computer.
Absolutely.
So are there some baseline things that,
you know, we're looking for basic computer skills. We can teach that. It really is. We can teach it. I'm just looking for people that are, you know, that they're going to look at a monitor and they're not going to go, oh yeah, that's good. I want them to go, does that look right? Or wait a minute, I remember like a week ago, I saw something like that, and they're putting the puzzle pieces together.
Right.
That is what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Now, Janet, you know, you're in a similar role to Karen. Is this ringing true to your experience?
Definitely. Yeah. I was nodding my head over here at what she was saying for sure. Awareness for all the employees is huge. We also do a very regular campaign, and we do hook people with our fishes, try to make them as real life as possible. And that seems to really work. I mean, the stats show, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. And the open door policy, also completely agree with, right? I mean, no questions, you know, every question's valuable. We want to hear from you because we learn too, right? I mean, we learn other people's perspectives, right? And just that in general, as a rule, having other people's perspective is huge. As far as new hires and what you look for, the analytical mind, right? So that's Karen calls it curious, right? The analytical mind, really being able to dig in and not just taking an answer and going, oh, okay, I got my answer and walk away, but dig behind that answer because there's more. There's always more.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked, you ladies have mentioned phishing and mentioned that I got caught. And maybe I'll just tell that story because the phishing is very clever. So I started at Rackspace in 2008. I left in 2018 for a little while. But when I came back in January of 2020, I got this wonderful email. And it said, hey, you're a returning racker, boomerang racker. We call ourselves rackers here at Rackspace. And I said, we're working on some new swag. You've got some history at Rackspace. We'd love your opinion. Click here to see and vote for what you think it should be. I was like, heck yeah, I'm voting. I want a cool shirt. Maybe I'll win something. And you know, effectively I get the, you know, you did a bad thing. Don't do it again. But I want to double down on what you guys have both mentioned around an open door policy. And, you know, in the past, a lot of us have presented at different conferences and we do different things. We've led people and we say no question is too small. And, you know, the dumb question is the one you don't ask. Well, in this scenario, the dumb question could be the one that sinks you. And so it's really important to ask the question, to raise your hand and go, do you really want me to vote on swag, or are we just playing around here?
Absolutely. You know, ask the questions. And, you know, you talked about open door policy. It's a lot of how we all know each other too. You know, the security team, it is a small community.
Yeah.
Janet and I, you know, serve on a board together for other CISOs. And it's like, you know, you get to know each other. And when in doubt, even for us, when in doubt, pick up the phone and call a peer. You know, and ask them maybe how something's, you know, working in their environment, or did they get hit with this particular event? What did they do? And they're more than willing to share what they did without giving away company secrets. But they definitely will help you through. I mean, we're here as a partner and as a team.
Yeah. Now, there's a question online I'd love for each of you to answer, and that is, do you have to have a certificate? Now, let's change that. I think you sort of pointed out the fact you want people who are analytical, who are curious, who are intelligent. These are things that are harder to teach. You can teach the tools and stuff. But if somebody was going to come to you that had some certificates, what are those? What are those certifications you're looking for? Jen,
well, the newer to the career, they're not going to. CISSP is the ultimate certificate, right? But you need to have a certain number of years experience. So that's sort of should be maybe a goal for folks in cyber.
Right.
I found just prepping for that exam myself personally, I learned a ton about IT, even though I'd been in IT for decades.
Yeah. So
it's just very, you know, it's a great learning tool as well as in prepping. And for any certificate, it's a great way to learn. I think from when I look at certificates, I think of, and not naming them, but some of the, just for a new employee, I think it's someone new to the field. I think it's great to see that they they've got the discipline, they've got, these are other characteristics that you learn about a person, right? When they can sit for a test and study for a test and get certified. So I look at it from that perspective and not necessarily what the name of the certificate is.
Do they have the discipline? Yeah. Very good. How about you?
I'm not looking for particular certificates. I'm with Janet. I mean, if somebody has one or two, that's great. But even if you don't have any, don't let that hold you back. I think you'll see in most, CVs and most resumes, when you look at them, some of them will have one or two, some will be studying, but most jobs now will say preferred or preferable. It's not going to say mandatory.
Yeah.
Unless you're looking for a very seasoned person in the CISSP specifically. Right. But I wouldn't let that hold anyone back.
Okay. And I would encourage you, each of you are working in some form of a company. That company has security people. If you're remotely interested, raise your hand, say, can I come shadow for a little while and see what the life of a security genius is all about and what the challenges are there. Now, there was a question that's strewn by, maybe it was more of a comment. There's a lot of you here in it. I love it. So keep these coming. By the way, you guys in the audience get to ask questions too. So raise a hand or flail and we'll bring out the cube. But, and it was around certain buzzwords that exist inside of security. And one of those you may be familiar with is zero trust. Now, Kenny knows a little something about zero trust, but Kenny Johnson from over at Cloudflare. Now, first of all, let me brag on Cloudflare a little bit because they're a great Rackspace customer or a partner and customer because they're a great company and they're doing really incredible work. And it's important that I call that out because you really don't, whatever your situation is, you shouldn't go it alone. This mountain that we're climbing, this challenge that we have to face is more than any one individual or organization can handle. So partnership becomes key. So Kenny, first of all, brag about Cloudflare for just a second. What do you guys do?
Anytime. Thanks for having us. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very excited to be here. And just kind of the quick background on Cloudflare is we started out as an application infrastructure and security business. We are a CDN, web application firewall, DDoS protection for your web-facing applications. What we had to do to build that business was build a global network where latency matters a lot with web properties, with customer-facing applications. What we also realized is that in the new way of doing things from a corporate security perspective, teams are spread across the globe. They're not stationed in an office anymore. Everybody's working from home. We're able to apply that same network approach to an enterprise security model. So being able to be really, really close to a user and serve their enterprise applications that would have traditionally been served out of a centralized data center or in the public cloud or something like that you VPN into to get access to. So
good. So you got all these great tools for doing all the security stuff for all these companies out and about. But let's talk about what you guys are doing for yourselves internally maybe and how you're making the jump.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the lucky part as a product manager is Cloudflare is our first best customer. A lot of our products started out as internal projects at Cloudflare. So one of the first big things that we did was move away from a VPN style approach for our internal applications. So instead of doing IP-based allow lists for our applications, we moved towards using what's called Cloudflare Access, but it's a zero trust network access solution. Basically, it's coming back to the idea of a true zero trust architecture, not the product you buy off the rack or anything like that. Right. It's actually verifying every individual user coming to an application, verifying their device, verifying who they are, making sure they're in the right Okta groups before they're allowed to an individual application. And that actually really helped us out because we were able to then roll out hard key-based multi-factor authentication, which we talked a lot about phishing already. That saved us from a phishing attack. I think it was about 2 months ago. An attacker hit us with we all got text messages, both to our work phones and to our personal phones. Oh, wow. And it said something to the effect of your password's been reset, come to Okta to reset that. And they built a pixel perfect version of our Okta login screen. Like it looked exactly identical. And this got sent to 180 similar tech companies. And we were the only one that we can see that was not compromised. We had employees that entered their username and password.
It did the clicky.
But our Okta wasn't compromised because we're fully hard key based off MFA, and it's impossible to compromise hard key based off MFA unless you literally have the physical hard token. So that was a step we took before COVID, before we sent people remotely, and it really, really saved us in a concrete security event.
That's a great example. I would also think about in your type of protection that Log4j. I mean, I would think that you guys had a pretty good stance on that one as well.
Yeah, that was another one we saw in the real world where kind of a defense in depth approach was able to both protect ourselves internally as well as we were able to protect customers. We were able to put a patch out into our web application firewall within hours of finding out the vulnerability existed. And that was a thing that we were able to actually force upgrade our customers for. So any application protected behind the web application firewall was protected, as well as my product, Access, that acts as the zero trust layer in front of an application, that actually obscures the application from anybody on the internet. So if you have a really legacy application running that version of Java logging, you couldn't have ever gotten to that. You would have just hit the Cloudflare proxy page. So just another layer of depth where you couldn't even reach that application.
That's really interesting. So there's a comment here. It's just, unfortunately, it's just coming in as LinkedIn user, so I can't give you credit for it, whoever you are. But you make the very smart point that cybersecurity is an incredibly vast field.
Yes.
And there's lots of cool technology along the way. Gary's built some cool stuff. We're going to hear about that and what he's done with partnership for our Rackspace customers, which you guys are up to over at Cloudflare. But it does oftentimes also impact how do you socially train your organization to the right behaviors.
Definitely.
So I would imagine that would be somewhat challenging for you guys because you're there with technology in hand.
Yep.
But your people can, but your customers can still sidestep your technology, or at least they can try to.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a key part with security products is they have to be easy enough to use such that your smart people aren't going to figure ways around them. Engineers are very creative when you get in their way versus if you provide them with something that's performant, that is fairly seamless and it just fades into the background, but is still running protections, then you're in really good shape. The other interesting challenge that we had in that space was with a similar group of folks that really deeply understand technology was rolling out traffic inspection technology. So being able to, for traffic to corporate applications, it's important to see what users are doing on Salesforce and your internal customer management applications. It's less important to see what they're doing on their personal banking sites and things like that. However, the implications are still there and the challenges are still there internally. You're rolling it out to a user's corporate machine nonetheless. So it's a really interesting conversation to navigate with your internal team and think about how to handle that personally identifiable information and logs associated with particular employees.
Right, so it becomes a really interesting part of the layer of the cake when you think about it. You know, there is no one trick pony. There is no one magic tool. There is no silver bullet. That's why at Rackspace, we partner. We can't solve it all. We partner. We wouldn't want to solve it all. We partner. And Cloudflare is a great example of that. We have many others. AppDynamics comes to mind from a full stack observability point of view. But Gary, this is a challenge that you have to think about. I mean, the best laid plans still end up in the hands of users. So kind of playing off of where we were with Kenny here, you know, when you're designing products for customers, security solutions, you know, how do you help to engineer for the individual, I'll call it?
Yeah, so when we build products for our customers or solutions for our customers, the first thing we look at is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? In many cases, for example, for Cloudflare and Zero Trust Access, it's how do I actually make this real? How do I actually deploy this? How do I actually roll it out to an end user? And how do I do it in a way that it's easy for somebody to use? I can tell you internally at Rackspace, I'm Karen's worst user, because I have a security history and I ask the question, well, how can I get around this? How can I break it? Karen comes and then whacks me on the head and goes, not again, Gary. So, a lot of thinking goes into what do our users need? What do our administrators with those users, what do they need? And then how do I build a solution around that? And what part then do we need to go build? What part do we need to augment with staff? And where do we need to bring in a partner like Cloudflare or one of our other partners?
All right, so you used a phrase, and our good friend and previous coworker Brad Schulteis asked the question. Now, first off, he said,
hey, Brad.
he said, "Stump Gary." Say something to stump Gary. but I don't know how to do that. So he asked another question, and you use the term zero trust, but is it really zero trust, or is there still some level of trust? We hear that, I mean, we hear that term all the time. So Karen, we'll start here. Zero trust. What are we not trusting? What are we trusting?
Well, it's not that we're not trusting. It's just that we're verifying. We're definitely verifying. We're scrutinizing and we're verifying. I would say it that way. We're putting in those layers of security to basically challenge, who's ever coming in. That's really what we're doing.
Okay.
We're putting in more locks along the way, and we're definitely, making sure that people have the access and only that access they need. And then we're still verifying that it's the person that's using that access responsibly.
Yeah. Gary.
I mean, it's a little bit of an overblown, overused term, right? There's still an infrastructure that things run on. There's identity and access management infrastructure that has to become that sort of root of trust.
Yeah.
There's technology, whether it's Cloudflare or somebody else underneath it. So there is some trust, but the concept of zero trust is really about how do I determine the trustworthiness of those things that want to communicate with me,
right?
And then communicating in a way that's secure. So from a user access standpoint, that's who's behind the screen. Are they trustworthy? Are they who they say they are? The authentication and authorization, and you do need to have an identity and access management infrastructure behind that. And the machine itself. Do I trust that machine? Is it trustworthy? So, what's its security profile? What's its security posture? Is it well protected? Or is it potentially breached? And then, okay, now how do I communicate securely with that thing? And then periodically revalidate. Is it trustworthy? Is that still the same person? That's the concept, the architectural concept behind zero trust.
Okay, perfect. How does Cloudflare fit in this space?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think
just a little bit.
I think, just fits a little bit. I think the big thing there is it is really about kind of shifting to where you're verifying. It's moving away from verifying at a corporate network level. I think a lot of these tools were built around the assumption that we're all in an office, or we're simulating that we're in an office using a VPN, and moving that level of authorization and authentication closer to the user, closer to the device, or even the automated service. That's a big piece we're seeing a lot more, as things like APIs and OAuth tokens out there that exist that can talk to your applications. That's a big area that we're seeing a lot of folks start to focus on and think about how to authenticate.
So Janet, there was a comment that was made. You can't see it; they're scrolling by so wonderfully quickly. And I can't see the name, unfortunately. But she points out that, but under the hood, doing testing and implementing protocols and processes is a continuous effort. Trust and verify with the least privilege model. So I think that's a good strategy. But let's talk about it maybe for a second from your point of view over at iHeart. Is that a good strategy? How are you guys implementing the whole zero trust aspect?
Well, I can't talk about that. I'd love to, but
that's right.
I'll talk about
so many things you can say.
Yeah, so I can't.
I invite a bunch of security people to tell me what they're doing, and they can't tell me.
But I can tell you, as a security professional, and I'm sure as others that are out there that are security professionals will see, lack of visibility, right? So having visibility alongside with trying to narrow down who you're trusting, because I personally think zero trust is an existing company is almost impossible to achieve, if not impossible, right? Because you've got legacy this or processes that have to happen this way. And so if I was to build a company from the start, I think we could build a zero trust security model, much more simply and easily than you can when you're dealing with, existing stuff, right? That's been around for decades. And so visibility is huge, right? And there's visibility you need visibility in what you're standing up in the cloud, what your development team standing up in the cloud, because it's so easy and fast, which makes it great. Just like we used to have everything open, right? We just have everything open because that way everything can talk to everything, and when we don't have any problems.
We trust our employees. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, just it's all open, and now we're closing all that down, right? Yeah. So teaching people who do have impact on not just the regular employee who clicks on a link, but actually have are standing up things in the cloud, right? And developing code and getting more visibility of what they're doing, but also giving them the tools that they need. I don't mean just technical tools, right? I mean processes and methods to develop better code, stronger code, to understand what they're doing when they're standing things up in the cloud and what they they don't intend to do these things, but their goal is to create features and functions that, serve our customers, right? For example, and that's not, they don't think that day to day. They don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm going to protect our data. That's what I can't wait to do when I get to work today. It's just not the way they think.
Well, and the ability to protect the data or protect any of those aspects gets harder and harder simply because the amount of data, the amount of systems, the amount of code, it's gargantuan. There's no way any group of individuals could make their way through all of that. We talk partnership. We bring Cloudflare to talk about how you guys are helping in the areas where you play. But there's so many other areas to pay attention to. So when we think about protecting the data, you can't, and let's go to your point that you made, Janet, about the legacy systems. So granted, you can't apply all of the things around all of those older systems, but there are, there's levels of inspection, there's levels of automation, AI that can help, get through the hay and find the needle, and then get through the 50,000 needles that are there and find the one that's going to actually hurt you.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I find just in my years of experience is we make things more complicated or sound more complicated than they have to be. So why do we call it multi-factor authentication? Why don't we call it double locks? Like, that's what it is. It's like the deadbolt on your door, right? You lock your doorknob, you lock your deadbolt, gives them, so it's double locking. We just overcomplicate it. Passwordless, it's a mouthful, right? It should be easy. We should come up with a term that makes it so, because passwordless is really easy, but the term is just complicated. And so helping to translate what it is we're trying to do into how it makes it better for our end users, either our customers or internal employees, is huge. Yeah. So communication, I think, is a real, I think visibility and communication are probably top two.
Big. Well, Gary, let's turn it over to you for a second. So as you are, you are vice president over helping the product team create security solutions for our customers to be able to consume, to help protect them. So when you're thinking about that, you and your team, what goes into what you choose to bring to our customers?
Yeah, I think it's really what our customers are looking for. And there's really 3 or 4 things that our customers continually ask us for. The first one is that visibility. Help me understand what my exposures are, or what my compliance posture is in this vast multi-cloud infrastructure that I've been building. And sometimes I don't even know where I built it or where it is or what my attack surface is. So help me get visibility to that, and then help me understand the exposures around that, right? So building solutions to help customers understand what are their exposures, what is the self-inflicted wounds that we may have created as we built our cloud infrastructure out, right? Most of the exposures we see in cloud infrastructure are self-inflicted misconfiguration, right? So help me find those and help me close those, and then help me understand my compliance posture in the same way. And then across that whole attack surface, help me discover what that is and understand it. That's one.
Okay.
And with that, as Janet mentioned, help me shift the good practices left towards my development team. As my infrastructure is being managed more by developers through DevOps, help me figure out how to apply those good practices with my developers. And part of that's process, part of that's providing guardrails for them, and then also providing some validation and tools to help them do their job, and wrap that, again, as Janet said, around a good process. The third we talked about, which was helping make Zero Trust real. And then fourth, getting back to that visibility piece, help me understand the security events you're seeing, and help me understand or detect when I've had a potential incident that I need to actually respond to, and then help me respond to that. And we see a lot of customers are coming to Rackspace or companies like Rackspace for these things because they don't have the security expertise. Not everybody has the resources of an iHeart or a big bank or a large tech company. So I'm coming to an expert like Rackspace to help solve those problems.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I love the fact that you pointed out, Gary, that not everybody has the resources of fill in the blank. And, I made the point before, there's no little league in cyber. That's a clever little catchphrase to use. But at the end of the day, the same people who are trying to compromise iHeart are the same people who are trying to compromise, Bob's Wingtip Shoes at the corner of First and Main, who has a website. And everybody is exposed, which is why it's so important to find companies that can help implement this stuff. Because one, it is complex. I mean, we talk about how we look for people who are curious, and they don't have to be super technical, but it helps. There's some certificates that would be nice to have if you can have them. But at the end of the day, when we think about it, this stuff is, even if somebody was level set perfect today, tomorrow is a brand new day in cyber. And that is a hard thing. So Gary, as you're looking at the tea leaves of the future, what are some of the things that you're thinking, companies either need to be paying attention to, or that keep you up at night? What's coming down the road?
What's coming down the road? Oh gosh.
Bring out your crystal ball.
Now 5 years from now, Brad's going to call me and be like, "You were wrong." But I think there's going to be a continuation of the problem that we've always had, that Karen mentioned, which is just security hygiene. The technologies may change, new technologies may come into play, but the same, how do I secure it? How do I keep it patched? How do I harden it?
Yeah.
That's always going to be the case. That's a problem we've had in the 20 plus years I've been in cyber. I remember sitting in my first conference years ago going, hygiene. Everybody, let's go patch. Everybody, let's go harden. And,
right.
We still haven't solved that problem internally on the infrastructure. And now you've got cloud and remote users and things like that. So I think that's going to continue to be the problem to begin with.
Okay.
And then on top of it, continuing capabilities will continue to evolve around AI and analytics, which there'll be a positive side to that, because we can take advantage of that from a security analytics perspective, but also a negative side in that, adversaries can take advantage of the same thing as well. I also think coming down the line that maybe not people haven't started thinking about yet, I'll throw a little bit juicier one in there, is the advent of quantum computing.
Yeah.
And what that means across the globe from a cryptography perspective.
Yeah. The countdown to cryptography.
Yep. The algorithms most of us use today are not built to be safe from quantum computing.
No.
And there will be a point in the future when quantum computing can make it really easy and fast and inexpensive to break current day's encryption capabilities. You're seeing NIST start to look at, and I think published a draft of the first quantum safe encryption standard.
Yeah.
But that conversion is going to be a huge undertaking for folks in the next 10, 15 years.
That is something to pay attention to. I'm glad the problem isn't tomorrow, but it is pretty soon. So Janet, you've been part of the conversation, and you've been listening to all the things, whether it's the solution from Cloudflare or how we're designing things at Rackspace, or what Karen is solving for and helping keeping 7,000 employees safe. What's going on in cyber in your world? First of all, is Gary getting it right for designing things for customers? And then how are you approaching, just cybersecurity in general over at iHeart with the things that you can share?
Yep, sure.
We'll keep it general.
Yeah, I think Gary definitely hit it on the usability piece, right? I think the fact the more usable things are, that's what I was alluding to with the naming, right? Like even what we call things, right? But how they actually function and making it easier and just embedded in the way we do our day-to-day jobs is super important, right? To make sure that it just blends in. So I think just, what might be coming hopefully in the next 5 years, just to kind of latch onto that question a little bit first, is actually designing security in, right? Like, we've been, those of us in the business right now, I call it, we live in aftermarket world, right? We're slapping this on and we're fixing that, and we're, making this, more complicated maybe than it needs to be because it wasn't designed that way in the first place, right? So I'm hoping that designing security in is what we're going to be looking at, and hopefully AI and all that will help. But also, if I could put on my total crystal ball, like self-healing, like the world of having to go back and patch and repatch and verify is just, we've all seen it. It's just not very easy to maintain.
Right. And
it
it only
takes a
gets
lot of
harder
resources.
in a cloud first company
Yeah.
where, they're auto scaling, VMs that who knows if they're descaling, who knows if they're patching, who knows if they know what they have.
Yeah. And I think to get to your original question, I think the one of the things that I would say is just happening in probably a lot of your customers right now is the economy is kind of tough right now, right?
Yeah.
So we got to really think about what we're going to invest in and where we're going to invest. And one of the things that my team and myself have to do on a pretty regular basis, and I think this holds true probably across companies, is creating the right business case for what it is you want to implement, buy, build, processes you want to, put in place, even people you want to hire, that kind of thing, right? And as security professionals, and I think I've seen this more in recent years, is we need to be able to really understand what business we're in, right? We're not, iHeart's not in the security business, right?
Right.
We're doing concerts and podcasts and streaming and of course all our, our broadcast radio, but that's not the primary business for us. Security doesn't make us money, right? And so to be able to really have the conversation around outside of security to say why we want to make these investments that matter to the bottom line, really. And that's a skill. I think, we talked about skills that more entry-level people need. I think that's a skill that as you progress in your security profession, you need to have that skill. You need to be able to talk about why it matters to the CEO, to the CFO, to the head of marketing, HR, whatever, right? Or even the developers. Like, you really got to learn who's your audience and how am I going to present this so that I can get the investment that I need to secure the company.
Yeah. I love that comment. Security doesn't make you money. It's so true. And so many, that's 99.9% of the companies in the world, or probably more nine should be there. And, while it doesn't necessarily apply to Gary, but that comment does apply to you because you have to go have a conversation with all sorts of stakeholders about why you need budget and maybe they don't get it.
It's true. You've got to explain it, what's in it for them. You got to explain the benefit to the assets and the data of the company. And you want to be able to explain it in terms of, brand damage. You want to explain it in customer damage. You want to explain the impacts and the probability of it occurring. Because you're right. We don't make money for the company, unfortunately. We're behind the scenes, we're keeping the company safe, we're keeping the assets and people. And so you're going to the board, you're going to the executive leadership team, and you're trying to explain what's in it for them.
Yeah.
And it's all about, showing what could have happened or what's the probability or likelihood of it occurring. And that's what your business case should really enforce.
Yeah. So Kenny, when I think about Janet's comment about, security should be implemented, it should be designed in. I think that you guys kind of play in both spots because you're helping keep people safe from themselves.
Yep.
But your tools and technologies do fit into an overall design for how a company can operate, since not everybody is locked into a single office that has a good, corporate firewall and you can hide there and be safe.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's two things there. One is being able to bake security into your development process and your engineering process. I think engineers are eager to bake security into their tools as long as you give them the ability to and make that easy. So thinking about how do you do things where you're using infrastructure as code style tools like Terraform or Ansible or something like that, where an engineer is actually able to just layer that on top of the application they're deploying and have that go through the same set of reviews and tests and things like that. I think the other piece is taking advantage of protocols above and below the applications that are being deployed. So thinking about what can you do in terms of a firewall that's overlaid your public cloud deployment? Like, how does that inbound firewall, how do you think about controls there? Or, what things are you putting at an underlying perspective that get applied across your entire infrastructure, like patching and things like that? You can do that with Docker and containers and things like that, to where just the container that the developer's spinning up is the compliant container every time. So you can take it out of their hands effectively and either control it at a level above or below what's being deployed.
Got it. That's great. So let's come back to Janet, and let's talk about some of the strategies maybe around that. How do you go to marketing and say, this is why you should care? How do you go to the concert people and say, you know, that Wi-Fi you want to put up so everybody can post their Instagrams of the concert? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have, I look at it as like you have to have the vantage point, right? You need to be able to sit in their shoes and understand what it is they're trying to accomplish, and then help them accomplish that, as opposed to, I think security, as we know, has always been like the department that says no, or that stops your project, or, and we don't want to do that. We want to get involved early. We want to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish and then help you accomplish it. And when you make those relationships and build those partnerships with the different departments within the company, they get it. It's not like that, we have smart people. They get it, right? They understand. And just really helping them, build out their plan, whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, whether they're putting on an event or they're going to put out a marketing campaign, and just making sure that they understand what their options are, because there's options, right? I mean, you can take risk, you can lower risk, you can, lots of different things you can do. So really, like I said, I think it's coming from their perspective, learning their language and talking to them in their own language, because we all have our own languages and our own functional areas of the company, right? Our own acronyms, our own shortcuts, and just really helping to bridge the gap.
Well, you make a great point, security, and I joke about this a fair amount, and that is that security is the group that they're there with the rubber stamp that says no, because your job is, and in the past, it's been kind of true, because your job was there to keep us safe, and safe from ourselves in a lot of cases, but keep the company safe so that the company doesn't go bye-bye. But more and more, what's going on is that our world is delivered, our business world is delivered through technology in some fit or fashion, even if it is, I make the joke about, Bob's wingtip shoes on the corner of 5th and Main, which I don't know if there's a 5th and Main, but whatever. They're still utilizing technology to get their job done, even if it's just a web page to advertise their wares. And so the partnership, we talk about partnerships before about how to go find different technologies to help do things, but it's the partnership of the security team with the business. And that's a new bridge to go by, because you guys used to be able to hide more behind the scenes.
It is, but I think the business needs to understand too that we're here to enable them.
Yeah.
So if they come to us, we'd rather them come to us early enough that we can help them design a secure, solution. And that's what we're here for. We don't want to be brought in after the fact. I mean, Janet talked about that earlier, where we've got to go and retrofit it in. Come to us early enough. We'll help you design the solution, safely in what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah, I think also it's how you talk about it. With your business leaders, going and talking about, you have this exposure, and this little piece of information is gonna leak out, is probably not the right way to do it. I think conversations around operational risk, around business resilience, things and concepts that CEOs and board members understand and are concerned about are the right frame of references to talk about security.
Right.
Well, and compliance requirements have created a business need for it. GDPR, FedRAMP, PCI, those are real dollars where you can't do business in that locality unless you follow that. So that's,
I think there's two pieces to that, right? And I'm going to get a little spicy. Is yes, compliance can help drive budgets, but that's the I can't believe I'm spending on this again budget. Whereas I am more than happy to put some spend in if it's going to help ensure my resilience. Ensure me getting done what I need to get done.
Well, and it's a business outcome too. Like hey, if we want to expand to Europe, we need a meaningful GDPR strategy. Like that, there's real dollars and real revenue behind that.
Yeah, so it helps. One of those things you have to think about when you're thinking about where your business is going and what it looks like in the future. And how do you design this from the very beginning so it doesn't become a roadblock or hey, we've invested X amount of millions in doing this thing, and now we got to pull the plug on it because we got to go reinvest another year to make it secure. And that could be super challenging. So we're coming up on our last few minutes. And so now I'm going to go, I didn't tell you I was going to do this because I wanted you to just kind of off the cuff. So here's what I want you to answer. So we can look at security as one of those things that scares you. A lot of us do. I think I get whatever the email is, especially coming into the personal email box, because you guys aren't filtering that for me. And I think, do I click the thing? And they're getting very, very clever. Now we can look at cybersecurity as something that's very scary. or we can also look at it as something that can be super excited about. So this should be relatively easy for our CISOs in the room because you're excited about your job. You have these jobs, but what excites you about cyber now and in the coming years and the opportunities that it means for your businesses?
You know, for me, what excites me is just the continual challenge. I mean, I like being challenged every day. I'm one of those people that think very quick on my feet, and I get a terrific leadership team here at Rackspace. That makes the job that much more, easier to handle too. And I think it's just continuing development. I think my team wants to have the opportunity to do the research and to be able to go out and look at new products. And, I think as long as they're motivated and jazzed, that's what keeps me here.
Right. Excellent. Kenny.
I think my biggest thing is security tools are getting to a point where they can be baked in at an infrastructure level and baked in as code to the point where smart teams don't have to necessarily think about security, but can still be secure. The startup that's out there in a garage getting started right now, they can be security first. When if you look back 10 years from now,
right,
when you raise your Series C, the first thing you go do is hire a security team. Versus there are enough tools and enough things that you can apply when you're just getting started that you can start with a security mindset.
Got it.
Security first mindset.
Yeah, mine's going to probably be similar to Kenny's, which is that convergence of operations development in security into just this is the way we do IT and good practices. And it plays to what Janet said as well about building it in and making it easier for everybody as you build it in. And I think that stream of DevOps and security and infrastructure and applications coming together for this is just the common way we do things going forward is really exciting.
Yeah. Got it. Janet.
Well, I love to build. So seeing the progress that we are making by whether it's just making another, strong partnership with a different business function or getting a tool implemented that's, great for the developers to use, or just behind the scenes does this great thing for us from a security perspective, right? I just, that really jazzes me up is seeing that progress.
That's incredible. And what I find interesting about all these answers is that when they do their job right, I'm pointing at all of these four very smart folks, security is transparent. The user just gets to do their job, or the consumer gets to buy the product and sleep well at night and know that their credit card's safe, their PII is safe. Me as an employee, my social security is not leaked from the company. And all of it just works. And when the bad guy does come knocking, and they do knock a wall over, that the blast radius is small enough, that it is compartmentalized, and that the issues can be resolved in a self-healing way, Jen. And I think that was your comment before. How can we get to a point where some of these issues just do get self-healed? So if that is exciting to you and creating that world for the rest of humanity, well, here's four people who I'm sure are hiring in some fit or fashion. Who isn't hiring? Now, through the program today, this has been incredible to be able to do a live interview style, not me standing behind the desk talking to somebody far, far away. We have from the Castle experienced some bandwidth issues. So if you stuck with us this far, know that we will be posting the entire recorded video as well so that you can capture and learn all the stuff that you missed out on before, if you're some of the folks who are experiencing the choppy video as well. But with that, I want to thank each of you for being here. I know this is a big time commitment to make your way over to the Castle. To Gary's flew in for this. You drove in for this up from in Austin, and we sincerely do appreciate it. And it's the work that you're doing that's keeping us inside of Rackspace safe, iHeart safe, a whole lot of people safe, and from both of you as well. If you aren't familiar with Cloudflare, go check them out because they can help keep you guys safe from yourself in some cases. So any last comments, anyone that you'd love to share with the world? We have just a minute. Look at that, it's open mic night here.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Glad you're here.
It's always enjoyable to do these, Jeff, with you.
It is. And it's an incredible world where we get to hop on and share some of these folks. So as you know, The Cloud Talk Live is part of Rackspace's Solve program. And Solve here at Rackspace is our thought leadership program. Everything there is free. If you were to head over to rackspace.com/solve, you will find all kinds of great information there. The podcast is there. There's all sorts of great articles that are there. And you know what else is there? Every quarter, we go out and we survey over 1,400 IT decision makers, and we ask them questions. Each quarter, it's a different topic. And we just finished, end of the summer, we did our surveys around all things cybersecurity. And that white paper is now available over on rackspace.com/solve, and you can go download it there for free. That's right, there's no cost there. When you go to rackspace.com/solve, by the way, that's also a drinking game anytime I say that URL. You will not be met with a pop-up asking you to how you are today and what we can sell you. There's nothing to sell there, only for you to consume the information that we have. If you're not already a subscriber to the Cloud Talk podcast, just head over to anywhere where podcasts are found. Now, also, next week, we're going to continue the cybersecurity thing. That's right. Even though Cybersecurity Awareness Month is coming to an end, it doesn't mean we stop paying attention to cybersecurity. Nikki Robinson is going to be on. She's an incredible IT professional. As you know, every Monday, the first Tuesday of every month, not every Monday, every Tuesday, first Tuesday of every month is Women in Tech Tuesday. And Nikki is going to be on. I got to know her just by watching some podcasts that she was on LinkedIn. And so she's got a PhD in this stuff. She's a smart lady, and I'd love for you to come and learn. That will be at 8:30 a.m. next Tuesday. That's Central Time here on LinkedIn or YouTube. Just find us on LinkedIn. It's easier to find us here. So everyone, thank you so much for being a part of Rackspace's first Cybersecurity Summit here in the Castle, where we will upgrade bandwidth before we do this again. And we will see you next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Central Time with Nikki Robinson. Thanks, everybody. Stay